How to Train Your Dragon is a live-action remake to the animation How to Train Your Dragon. I'm sure most of you know the story of How to Train Your Dragon. You have this village of Berk where a bunch of Vikings occupy it. Dragons constantly swoop in. The dragons and the Vikings, they are at war with each other. They are mortal enemies. But one day, this young Viking who doesn't really fit in, named Hiccup, he eventually finds this dragon that he names Toothless, starts getting up close and personal with him, starts learning the ways of the dragon, starts learning more of what they're like, and is starting to think maybe these aren't as bad as we believe they are, and thus he goes out to try to show that perhaps Vikings and dragons can coexist. How to Train Your Dragon animation, I think, is one of the best animated movies of all time, and it's probably DreamWorks Animation's best movie. I mean, even the trilogy itself, I think, as far as like animated trilogies go, probably one of the best ever. And you know, it's been the new wave in Hollywood for the last, I don't know, what's been like a decade or so, probably even further than that, is let's take every animated classic we can find and let's make them live-action adaptations for people, because it's a quick, easy little cash grab. And namely, Disney's been in the department of doing that, but DreamWorks apparently decided to do it for themselves and brought us a new How to Train Your Dragon live-action remake. But I will say this much, as far as any live-action remake could have gone, this is probably the one I was the most confident in. Because you had the director, Dean DeBlois, coming back to direct this movie, and I always felt the idea of seeing the dragons in CGI, seeing the island of Berk, seeing the flight sequences and everything, I'm like, this could actually be a really good theatrical experience in live action. So I went into this movie with a bit more hope than I did other live action adaptations, and I will say, this is probably one of the better live action adaptations we've gotten. So I will say, what is both the biggest compliment and maybe even a bit of a detriment that I would give this movie is this is a very, very faithful adaptation. I mean, I watched the animation a couple days before I went to see the live action adaptation just so I could compare notes and say, alright, let's see if this really is a shot-for-shot remake. And more or less it is. I mean, the lines of dialogue, the way the characters act, what the characters do, it's more or less the exact same movie as the animation. I mean, they maybe add a few things here and there to drag out the runtime a little bit, to add a couple new things so it's not a complete and total remake, but the stuff they add in there, I mean, it doesn't really add much to the story. It's just for the sake of extending runtime, I feel. And that is what I will say. If you are a bleeding heart How to Train Your Dragon fan, if you love that movie more than anything, you will be very appreciative that this movie does honor that. But at the same time, it does take away a little bit of the fact that, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen in this scene, I know what's going to happen here, I know what's going to happen at this point in time. But that's what I will say this much right here. This movie was very well aware of what its audience is. Its audience is for die-hard How to Train Your Dragon fans. I think that's what a lot of live-action adaptations do tend to forget. Their main audience should be for the people who were big fans of the original animation, and when they change things here and there, they modify certain characters, or they leave certain parts of a story out, it naturally will upset the fans. Sometimes your best bet with live action adaptations is just simply play it safe and give them the exact same movie, and the fans will show up for it. Getting into the performance of this movie, in this one you have Mason Thames playing Hiccup. This was a role that I felt would work. I really loved this kid in the black phone. I thought he had a bright future going for himself after that. But interesting enough, I've always felt that Jay Baruchel as the voice of Hiccup was one of those like voice actor character marriages that just always worked seamlessly. It was very hard for me to picture someone else playing Hiccup, even though all Jay Baruchel is doing is voicing him. I did feel like Mason Thames did a really good job here, because he still embodies what Hiccup is. He's awkward, he doesn't fit in, he doesn't really feel like a Viking. Like, he never seemed cut out to kill a dragon, and when the opportunity finally came for him to kill a dragon, he couldn't do it. And then, you know, as he spends time with Toothless and he learns about dragons, he starts to develop this affection for Toothless and this understanding of these creatures and realizing we don't have to fight them. So you still see that growth in his character development. You still see the development of his friendship with Toothless. That is the big make or break point of this movie, and that's all here, and he does a really great job with that. And when it comes to CGI Toothless, I will say, I think Toothless, once again, he looks great. I mean, yeah, he looked great in the animation as far as a creature design, as a dragon design. I mean, he's like Stitch in a lot of ways. He's cute, he's adorable, he's a goofball. You love him. He reminds you of a pet. Because that is essentially what the How to Train Your Dragon story is. It's about a boy and his dog, or in this case, a dragon. And in this one, once again, they honor Toothless's personality, what he's like as a dragon, how his friendship with Hiccup really develops, how they grow to trust one another, how they learn to assist one another, how the two of them form this bond that results in them really needing each other and also being able to change the future of Burke. So yeah, happy to see their chemistry in here was still shown, it was still great, and I love that Toothless really just looked very well done in this movie. And yeah, once again, Gerard Butler is back as Stoic. I'm very glad that he came back to do this because not only did Gerard Butler crush it as the voice of Stoic, but you always felt if they were gonna make a live action Stoic, it probably should be Gerard Butler. So yeah, he's back here as Stoic, and he once again is giving it his all here, and he does great. Because you can see it in the way he delivers his lines and the way he delivers his performance. You can tell this is a character and a role that does mean a lot to him. He very easily could have just thought to himself, like, okay, I'm just coming back to play a character that I voiced years ago. You know, I know exactly what the lines are. I know what to do. Yeah, I'll just show up, get my check, easy money. But no, on this one, you see the fear he has of the dragons. You see the complicated relationship he has with Hiccup. You see the real hatred he has for the dragons and just how Hiccup really has his work cut out if he's gonna ever bring him to his side. And again, I loved seeing the dynamic between Hiccup and Stoic. It felt like that complicated, complex father-son relationship. Like the two of them are trying to get along, find some common ground, but they're both just very different and it leads to awkwardness. And it's great to see that because that is very similar to what many father-son relationships are like. It's not a lot of love all the time. It's not a lot of affection all the time. It's not a lot of long, deep conversations even. These two, once again, exhibit the awkwardness that can be in a father-son relationship, and that was appreciated. As far as other performances in this movie go, I'm not gonna say anyone gives a bad performance, but I did feel Nico Parker as Astrid was probably my least favorite one. Because in this movie, my issue with her is she felt a little too wooden at times. Like, there wasn't a lot of personality exhibited with her in this movie. Now, I get it. In the animation, Astrid's supposed to be, like, you know, this great dragon fighter, this aspiring new soldier in the army. You know, she's kind of, you know, she's a hard ass. She's tough. But she always had something to herself where you could see heart in her, where you could see moments where she undeniably cared about Hiccup, where, you know, she wanted to figure out what was going on with him. So in the animation, when the romance was starting to blossom between them, when something was building between the two of them, you bought into it. In this movie, not enough of that is here for me. Like the moments where, you know, Hiccup and Astrid are supposed to be bonding, are supposed to be developing this connection, I didn't really feel it to that extent. Like the moment where, you know, Hiccup and Toothless take her on that ride through the sky and she starts to see, oh, maybe dragons aren't terrible. Like the way they showed in the live action, she didn't seem as enthusiastic about flying. She didn't seem as blown away by the fact that Hiccup has managed to tame and ride a dragon. Like the animation just showed how Hiccup was able to impress the girl of his dreams a little bit more than it happened in the live action movie. But yeah, sticking with the flight sequences, I will say Hiccup riding Toothless in this movie, once again, it's awesome. The original score, the music, it kicks in, it hits you right in the feels, it's awesome. You see the way he just maneuvers through the sky, over the ocean. It's beautiful to look at. Even the action in this movie, that final action sequence, it's once again thrilling, it's exciting, it's fun. I do get to touch on the visual effects for a moment. I know I briefly touched on Toothless, and Toothless undeniably looked great, but there were moments in this movie with the other dragons, or maybe the island itself, where there were some moments where the CGI more blatantly stood out. And that is part of the problem with doing a live action adaptation where all the dragons in your movie are going to be CGI, maybe the island is a little bit CGI, maybe it's a little bit green screen. In those moments, it doesn't always feel very seamless, and that's what animation can get away with. Because in the animation, the humans, the dragons, the island, everything, it's all animated the same way, so it all just feels very much the same. In the animation, it's a very seamless transition, it's a very seamless watch, and as a result, you just get a lot more lost into the world because everything is cohesive. This movie didn't have that as much, so I could tell something was clearly very much not real. It took me out of it for a moment and reminded me that I am watching a movie. It's little things like that that are always going to give the animation an edge over a live action adaptation. So all in all, How to Train Your Dragon, it did the animation justice. Mason Thames, I thought, did a great job as Hiccup. It was great to see Gerard Butler back as Stoic. I thought he crushed it once again in this role. It's great to see him really give it all for a performance that we know and love him for. Now it has me wondering if Cate Blanchett will come back as Hiccup's mother in the sequel. I kind of hope she does now. There's some actors and characters I felt could have stood out a little bit more, namely Nico Parker as Astrid. I wish she wasn't as wooden as she was in this movie. Hiccup and Toothless's dynamic is once again great. It's awesome. It'll touch your heart. Toothless looks great. The fight sequences, especially if you see them in IMAX, they're awesome. The action sequences are fun, thrilling, exciting. Visually, for the most part, it is impressive. There are some moments where things stand out and take you out of the movie a little bit because it's very much not real. It's more or less a shot-for-shot remake of the original, so you will go into this movie and you will know that they do the movie justice, but you also know that any new things they add into it aren't really gonna give you much to be excited about. In the end, know exactly who you are. If you're a diehard fan of How to Train Your Dragon, this movie is absolutely made for you. And if How to Train Your Dragon is something that you weren't super hyped about, or, you know, maybe you just are as attached to that movie as super fans are, this is maybe not a movie that you're gonna be super thrilled to go out of your way to see. But yeah, as someone who loves the original How to Train Your Dragon and was hoping this movie would do it justice, I'm very glad that this is the version that we got. So yeah, I'll give this one a 7 out of 10, which if you're a fan of this How to Train Your Dragon franchise, it's definitely worth going to the movies for.
All right, come on, hurry up, Brian. I don't want to miss the movie trivia slides before the movie.
This is what you need to do if you're gonna bring fans in for live action adaptations. Just make faithful remakes that can bring the fans back. And that's all you really need to do. Shouldn't be that complicated, but Hollywood finds a way to make it so. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.